Hello, everyone. This is Rick, and welcome to Astral Club. This is Astral Time Travel. Before we get into it, anyone interested in supporting Astral Club on Patreon, you get no commercial videos, and we can talk back and forth on Patreon. I have a number of new patrons I'd like to share. Gavin is an Astral Scout. Ricky Bravo is an Astral Master. Nigel is an Astral Master. And Shadow is an Astral Ascended. And if you'd like to join them, there is a link in the description. If you're interested in private lessons with me to learn astral projection, there will be an email in the description as well, where you can contact me for more information. There's also a few videos there that kind of explain what's covered if you're interested in that. Okay, let's get started. I've had a number of folks recently ask for some more information on astral time travel. And, it's been a while since I got into the how to and the basic facts of time travel. I've shared some of my experiences, but it's been, I think, quite a while since I really talked about the theory and the how to about astral time travel. What I find very curious about astral projection books is you'll see a dearth, a lack of information on how to time travel in the astral. They'll talk about meeting different creatures, angels, and guides, and maybe nature spirits, space travel, even dimensional travel. But they don't get into a lot of time travel, which is always, I found, very curious because it's very easy once you perfect the method to do time travel. Of course, it also helps to understand the rules and what occurs during past, present, and future projections. Then you have to understand why it's possible for entrance. Now, time travel. In the physical, scientists have thought about that for quite a bit, and many believe it's not possible. Some believe travel into the future is possible. In our physical world, we believe that there is the past. The past is something which once occurred and is no longer occurring. Then there is the present. The present is what's occurring right now. And the future is that which has not happened as of yet. However, in the astral, you'll find that our understanding of time, as I just described, is flawed. It is an illusion. On the astral, all time is happening exactly at the same time, just at different energy levels or states. That is how time travel is possible in the astral. We have to access that particular vibration, go into that particular channel, and reach our goal. And there's a number of ways to do that. But first, I want to discuss some basic facts or rules, if you will, just so there's not misunderstandings going forward. I have had a number of people, one particular person who was very adamant that his life had been ruined about 20 years ago when he made a decision, I believe, not to marry someone. And he was adamant. He wanted to go back in time, somehow through astral projection, and change the decision he made because he believed that would correct whatever ruin had occurred in his life. And he said he was willing to pay me all kinds of money to make this happen. And I told him, I'm sorry, keep your money. This can't be done. The past, from our standpoint here in the astral, can be reached, yes. You can be a shadow watching the events that occurred, correct. However, you are a shadow with zero ability to be seen or to interact with those past events in any way. Last, the further you travel back in time, the less time you can actually spend there in the past. For instance, I went back on a couple different occasions to look for dinosaurs. One, I saw a raptor type creature, and another time I went inside the body of a giant crocodilian. And I could only be there for a few minutes, and when I returned, about 20 some minutes had gone by here in the present. That's the rule of the past. So you cannot prevent Kennedy from being assassinated or Lincoln from being assassinated or change any particular event in your life. Now, I had one person recently who had watched the video where I wanted to test whether the great white shark would sense my electromagnetic signature from my astral body. So I went back in time about 20 years and went to what's known as Shark Island. It's off of South Africa. And went into the water and saw this giant great white approaching and then veer towards me. And it wasn't that far away and speeding up when I decided to take off into the sky. Not because he could hurt me, but because it's intimidating to see a giant sea monster headed at you, even if you know intellectually it can't harm you. So anyway, this person said, well, wait a minute then. Didn't you change the past? I thought about it and I said, no. I think if you'd had a camera back in that past and a camera there when I went back to that past, you would see that shark had always veered off in that direction. For whatever reason, I was part of that past. I didn't change it. All I did was close a loop that I had always been a part of. And I know that can mess with your head a little bit, but I believe that is the accurate answer. When it comes to present travel, we don't usually think of that as time travel, but in a sense it is. In the present, you can generally stay out of your body for as long as 20 minutes. Many times it'll be shorter than that. You will quite usually not be seen. You will be a shadow, and your ability to affect the present and the physical is either non-existent or extremely minuscule. So you're basically just a ghost. The future, though, from our standpoint, is very different. As you go further into the future, and I'm talking 50, 100, 200, 300, 1,000, 15,000, a million years, as you go forward into the future, you gain more time to spend there. For instance, when I traveled to the year 15,000 AD or thereabouts, and I spent a few years with my tribe. Now, I was able to, through force of will, to turn back my return signal on a number of occasions. But I was able to stay there for a few years, and when I got back, only 20 minutes had gone by. When I traveled to 500 million years, and then eventually to the end of the earth when the sun consumed it, I was out of my body for months and months. And when I returned, no more than 20 minutes or so had gone by. The other most interesting part of far future travel is that you are seen by physical beings. You can interact with them. When I went to 10 million years in the future, I was attacked by this creature, and it was able to make contact with a body that looked like mine. Now, all I felt was a dull sensation. It couldn't actually hurt me, other than just inconveniencing me, quite frankly. And then I was saved by these other bat like creatures that had swooped in and had scared this creature off, and who I eventually interacted with. And they had the beginnings of intelligence, and I showed them how to make fire. So perhaps they will then continue to evolve in that future. But I was able to interact with them in that far future. So these are some of the basic laws of time travel. One thing I'd like to discuss before we get into the how part of it is the morality of interfering with the future. Now, I grew up with Star Trek and the whole non interference directive, where you weren't supposed to interact with beings who didn't develop warp drive yet, and who were in early development, because you didn't want to interfere with their natural course of development. And that's always kind of been my basic idea. Unfortunately, sometimes when you get mixed up in things, you find yourself in a position where you can't just do nothing. You know, when I flew overhead in 15,000 AD, I had no interest at that point in interfering in any way with what was going on. But I saw this small, ragged tribe of humans who were obviously starving, who were barely clothed. And I saw this young girl whose ribs I could see, and she reminded me of my daughter. And at that point in time, about the same age. And I couldn't just fly on. So I lowered myself, and after they're surprised, I helped them find food and to better their living standard in quite a number of ways. So yes, I ended up interfering because I felt it was the right thing to do. And you can fault me all you like, but sometimes what happens happens. When I was 10 million years in the future, I didn't mean to get involved there either, but I was attacked by that creature, and those semi intelligent bat type things interfered to help me, and then they saw me, so I interacted with them and perhaps went ahead and changed their evolutionary history by showing them fire. I You can debate back and forth whether that was right or whether that was wrong, but it gets a lot harder when you're actually involved with living beings. So, how does one project oneself into time? Because you won't find a lot of information in all your astral projection books, which, as I said, I've always found confusing. I don't know why it's not discussed. What you have to do is understand, first of all, that it is open to you, that your force of will, which moves you from place to place, just when you're plain old astral projecting, is the same will that you're going to need to go into the future or the past. What I started doing was simply flying down my hill on the street that I lived on. And if I was going to project myself into the future, for example, I would will myself to a certain time period and I would start counting off days, then weeks, then years, and I would keep in mind that year that I was shooting for, and I would hold it like a vice grip, not allowing any other thought to intrude. Because remember, it's your force of will that moves you through the astral. If you allow your will or your thought process to change to something else, to allow other thoughts to intrude, you may end up going some different direction and not in the direction that you wish to move. If you're lucky, you will hit a time channel. And I like to refer to it as going up the line. And sometimes that phrase itself is somehow helpful in achieving time travel, especially future travel. And sometimes it works. And you will find yourself, if it's a far trip, traveling very quickly. Things are changing around you very rapidly. Then you will black out, much like you black out when you make long distance space trips. You will black out and then find yourself hovering above or perhaps lying on the ground somewhere. Hopefully, if you are able to maintain your thought process and your will at the time that you are looking to approach. Keep in mind that getting to the time that you want is an amazing accomplishment. Place can be a whole different matter. Many times I'll find myself in a wide variety of places. Sometimes above an ocean, sometimes in a city, sometimes in a farmer's pasture. Once I appeared in a lake. So the actual physical place you end up can be very different from perhaps what you intended. Just be glad you hit the time period. Now, if you went for a further trip, and I'm talking further up, you will find that your body is solid. Now, you should still be able to fly, but a lot depends on the dimension you landed into. Sometimes you can, many times you can fly, sometimes you can't. You'll have a body that can be seen by others who are alive in that time zone, but it can't be harmed. It also has very limited abilities. You can communicate telepathically with other humans, and you can understand what they think at you. And they may mistake you for somebody in a physical body, but keep in mind this is your astral body. It just has taken on a solidity that you're usually not used to having if all you've ever done is travel in the present. The past is a very similar process, only now you're going down the line and you want to perhaps, will yourself flying faster and faster, counting backwards. And then when you find yourself in a time channel, you'll see things changing again rapidly. And then hold the time period that you want to accomplish. And once again, if it's further back, you'll probably black out. Now, if it's just a matter of days or weeks, you may not black out. But if you're looking for a longer trip, you'll probably black out. And then when you come to, hopefully you will have achieved your destination. When I went back to 75 million years and I saw those huge crocodilians, and I'm talking 25 to 35 feet or so, with heads the size of a man, I woke up floating above a beautiful delta with the sun just starting to rise. And below me, I thought I saw logs, but they were actually these crocodilians. But I had lost consciousness. So be prepared for that. But however, unlike the future, once again, in the past, you will be nothing but a ghost, unseen by any living creature. Well, that's astral time travel. And like I said, I've had this requested now a number of times, and so I wanted to get that out there. And we've talked about many of these things before, but it's been a while, and I thought I'd go over some of this information again. If you liked it, hit the like button, share it with those of like mind. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'd love your questions, love your comments. And if you'd like to join Astral Club on Patreon, there'll be a link in the description. And if you're interested in private lessons on astral projection with me, you will find an email where you can contact me for more information. And there's also some links to a couple of short videos where you can learn what the class is all about. Okay, this is Rick, and I will see you on the astral plane.